My name is Chris Cavan. I'm one of the founders of Levita Compounding Pharmacy, and we have been doing these Wine, Women, and Hormones now for about 13 years, if you can believe that. And with 2020 being what 2020 is, we decided this information was even more important to get out to people with all the stress in the world today. So we've gone virtual, and they've been very successful events for everybody. I think we've given some good advice. Today, I'm really excited about our featured doctor, Dr. Laura Noel. She's a good friend of Levita and myself, and we respect her highly. She knows her stuff, so we're excited to have her speak today. She'll take over in a little bit. I wanted to let you know this event's for you guys. Ask your questions. It's an informal event. We will try to answer questions as we go. The way you're going to ask is down below. There's a chat button. Type in your question, and when there's a moment to slip the question in, we'll do that. We'll ask the doctor and get an answer that way. And stick around to the very end, because we have some really cool giveaways today. Shine Doctors Practice Shine Natural Health is going to give away 5 Shine custom injection shots. So that's about a $250 value. They're also going to throw in a detox kit for someone. That's another $170 value. And anybody on this webinar today that calls the office and books by Friday, mentions the Wine, Women, and Hormones event, will get $75 off their appointment. So there's some good stuff at the end, and also some fun little swag, some little hats and things like that too. So stick around to the end to win. And besides, there's a lot of good information. We have an hour to go, so we're going to just dive right in. Why don't you go ahead and hit the first slide?
All right.
Okay, so this is, you're not alone. I think the thing we hear a lot is that, they feel like they're alone, they're crazy, something's going wrong in their life, and they feel like they're the only one suffering this way, but you're not. Like, we can guarantee it. These things are actually fairly common. We hear them and see them all the time. And again, ask your questions about any of this stuff, because we've more than likely heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, one of the things we know is that people don't know that they have options, that there's things you can do. And so it's kudos to you guys for educating yourselves. Again, we think when we give smart people good information, you make good decisions for yourselves. So this information is based in science. It's just not our personal opinions, although we do believe in healthy aging, and kind of, you can talk a little bit about the root cause model of medicine sort of thing. But this is where you're here to get your questions answered, so don't be shy. And feel like yourself again. I think what happens is we get so exhausted and so tired, and we're not sleeping, and we're stressed. We don't even know what it feels like to feel good. And I hear that a lot, that actually when we do start treating patients and getting them back to health, they can't believe the difference. It's like they've gone from black and white to living in color again. So we hear comments like that all the time.
Mm.
And then the 7 little menopausal dwarfs. We have itchy, bitchy, sweaty, bloaty, sleepy, forgetful, and psycho. And it's not a good day when you're that all on one day. And I think, I suppose that anybody, I wish we could see hands of faces. Raise your hands if you recognize yourself in any of this. But some of these are just quality of life issues, and some of them are indicative of, there could be things going on down the road we need to cut off at the pass. So a lot of people don't even know that these symptoms are attached to perimenopause and menopause. So we're here to educate you on that as well. So the sleepy and bloaty, I think we know that everyone's sort of exhausted and tired, and then you're not feeling like having sex with your partner because you're exhausted. And then kind of gaining that muffin top weight. Where did that come from all of a sudden? I hear that a lot. Even though you're dieting and doing your normal exercise routine and everything, all of a sudden this stuff sort of sneaks up on you.
Mm-hmm.
And the itchy and sweaty. I think we hear about the hot flashes and night sweats, but did you know that the itchy skin can be a sign of low estrogen, or thin skin, sagging skin? All of that is indicative of some hormone changes that we can address, and most of the stuff we get under control. And then the bitchy, psycho, and forgetful. I think we probably all had a day or two like this before, but just that anything irritates you. Your partner walks in the room and you just want to, claw their eyes out just because they're breathing. Something like that. Anxious, forgetful. We hear the brain fog thing all the time. You open your closet and stare at it for 10 minutes trying to pick out an outfit, or forget where you put the keys, can't remember your kids' names, all of it. So a lot of that's really common, and the mood changes are common, but doesn't mean you have to accept it. So we're here to say there's things you can do about it. So we're here to help. Again, ask your questions. You've got such a great, go ahead, a great doc and Dr. Laura Noel here today. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, so I just want to quickly thank our sponsors, Prudential and Epigenetics RX, along with Shine Natural Medicine, Dr. Noel's practice, and of course, Levita Compounding, our little joint here. So just a little bit about our featured doctor, Dr. Laura Noel. She's a naturopathic doctor. She has, how long have you had Shine now?
7 years now.
7 years. She has a really cool practice in Solana Beach, and you should check it out. She's an expert in digestive disorders, autoimmune, and of course, hormone imbalances, which is our topic today. I have a lot of experience in this area as well, and talk to the patients and doctors all day long. So this is an area that I'm really passionate about and love. So these are always fun events for us. We like to get the message out. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, good doctor. Tell them a little bit about yourself and your practice. And
sure. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
and welcome to the attendees from Canada. I just got to know that there's, so welcome. We love our neighbors to the north.
I love it. Hormones, no location, right? We are all dealing with the same
boundaries.
stuff.
Right.
So I am just about to be turning 40 in January. So I feel like I'm getting into a new phase of hormone balance, and I'm able to understand things even more as a person experiencing it myself. So that's good. And as I go through this, you'll see that we all deal with different hormone kind of phases in our lives. And it's not like a one size fits all thing. And that's what's so beautiful about working with pharmacies like Levita, working with the naturopathic doctor, because we're always adjusting things and changing things based on you as an individual. It's not like a cookie cutter kind of approach. So a little bit more about myself. I became a doctor because of my own bad experience with doctors, really. Back in the day when I was in high school, I was overweight. I was super cold. I was fatigued. I had a face covered in acne. My periods were happening maybe every 3 to 4 months. And I didn't know what was going on. My parents took me to my Kaiser doctor, of course, and besides them pushing vaccines on me at every visit, they didn't really have much to offer. They gave me antibiotics for my skin. They suggested birth control pills for my hormones, and they ran just very basic lab testing that didn't really show anything. Looking back now at those lab numbers, it was like raging, the issues that I was having, but they were comparing me to the average American person, not optimal. And so they missed a lot of things. And, I look back just going, man, I wish I could have had those things addressed, because I would have felt so much different as a high schooler and going into college and everything. But it turned out I had a thyroid issue, was underactive. And once I had that addressed, so much of my health got better. And it wasn't until working with a naturopathic doctor for myself that I realized there's a whole nother area of medicine that looks at these things totally differently. And what's interesting is when I saw a naturopathic doctor for myself, I first went there for my acne. And I remember at our first visit, at the end of the appointment, which was like a 2-hour appointment, it was amazing. It was so comprehensive. I asked her, what are we going to do for my skin? And she's like, we're going to do it from the inside out. She didn't do anything for my skin. And then fast forward just a few weeks and my skin was clear. So it was really wild, the approach. It was night and day different. And I had found out about her because I had a friend of mine who had Crohn's disease and was seeing all these different GI doctors, was getting so sick. And she started seeing this doctor who's out in Colorado. And then she ended up getting healed from Crohn's disease, which is supposed to be incurable. And she was healthier after the treatment than even before she got sick. So our bodies are designed to heal, and they can heal when we get to the root of the problem. And it's really, we're not about Band-Aid approaches, right? We're about correcting the imbalances so the body can do what it's supposed to do. So that's why I love it so much. And I always say, I didn't go to naturopathic school to really practice as a doctor. I truly just wanted to learn it because I was just obsessed with how much I saw it working for myself. And then I got to shadow doctors prior to going to school. And I was just blown away at the results that patients were experiencing. So I love it. And I've been practicing for 10 years now. And it's so rewarding. It never gets boring because I'm always learning new things and patients are always bringing in interesting, scenarios. So, and then the other cool thing I do is I host a podcast for, you guys can all check it out. It's called Dr. Low Show. And I've been doing it for 10 years. And coming up in January will be my 10-year anniversary. So it's really exciting and had over 3 million downloads. So it's reaching people all over the world, just educating them. It's like, I think 300 episodes. So it's all free information. You can learn more all about whatever topic you want. I mean, literally every topic we talked about on there. So check that out, and let's jump into it. So talking about just some of the phases in life, perimenopause versus menopause, this gets confused a lot for women. They'll think, oh, I think I'm menopausal, and they'll be like in their 30s, and just dealing with some hormone symptoms. And that's really not true. I mean, the average time of menopause is 51, 52. So it's a lot later than most women actually think, but our hormones do start to change in our 30s, around 35 or so, and every woman's a little different. That's when hormones can start to shift. And typically progesterone in particular will start to lower at that time, and you can start to feel symptoms that can come along with that. And these changes can take, 10 to 15 years to change. And then as you approach menopause, technically what menopause is it's 1 year without a period. And that's when officially you've, gone through menopause. So, and this can be happening whether you feel it or not. It could be more at a cellular level. One thing about hormones is that hormones they work on every single cell in your body. So, your brain, your muscles, your bones, your skin, your hair. I mean, it affects everything. And that's why when you have hormone issues, you can feel it so widespread. And so, it could be working at a cellular level, or you may actually feel the symptoms.
Right. And that's a good point, Doc. I have patients say to me all the time, well, I'm fine. I don't really have symptoms. I sleep like a log. I don't have issues with weight. And I said, that's excellent. Good news. You're one of the few that doesn't have a lot of symptoms, but there's things going on underneath the surface that you need to be aware of. Like you mentioned,
right.
There are hormone receptors literally over every organ of your body, and in particular brain, heart,
exactly.
bone. Really,
and like a good example, like osteoporosis, you don't feel osteoporosis, but
right.
you could have a weakening of your bones that you don't feel. And then, as you get much older, it could be like a hip break or something. And then
right.
you find that out. So, and I have seen things like this, even women in their 20s having osteoporosis. It's crazy. But there's a lot more that can, kind of lead to that. But yeah, lack of supplementation may lead to hormone deficiency. We run a lot of really thorough tests at Shine. So even if someone comes in to see me for hormones, we're going to be looking at, their full blood work, their thyroid, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, inflammation, all of that, their liver health, especially because that all plays into hormone balance. So it's not just, putting on a bunch of hormone creams. You need to look at the full picture. And so they all play together. So synthetic hormones, I think this would be good for you to jump in because this is definitely your arena of the difference between maybe what you would get like with a primary care doctor compared to going to like an integrative or naturopathic doctor.
Right. I mean, synthetic hormones, they work. They will help with hot flashes and night sweats, things like that. However, it's sort of like killing a fly with a cannon, and the way they metabolize is a problem. And the first issue I think a lot of people have is that they come from pregnant mare's urine. So not only do I'm an animal lover.
So weird.
These poor horses are just kept in stalls and collecting their urine all day long. So that's just horrible on its own. Not to mention, pregnant mare's urine is not human estrogen. It doesn't look like human estrogen. So it's foreign to your body. It's not patentable. So like the bioidentical hormones aren't patentable. These are patentable. That's why the big pharma companies have them. They can make money on them. We've just found they hang around too long in the body. A Mayo Clinic study showed the progesterone or progestogen portion of it can linger for 6 months. And that's where they think a lot of the side effects and long-term issues can come from cardiovascular issues and stroke.
Mm-hmm. Very important.
Yeah. And then the bioidenticals, on the other hand, is sort of a lock and key where they're naturally sourced, but that's not this, the real clinical significance. The clinical significance is that they're bioidentical. So if I looked at the estrogen in your body underneath a microscope next to the estrogen Dr. Noel would prescribe and that we would make for you in the lab here at Levita, it's identical. And the body sort of assimilates it as its own and knows how to metabolize and get rid of it. So yes, it has to be monitored. It's a hormone. You need a doctor. I mean, prescribing is only half the battle. You have to have somebody who knows what they're doing following you up.
Mm-hmm.
But we're already more safe out of the gate. Let's put it that way.
Right. And I don't know if we'll get to this later, but just to touch on it now, because it might be something in your minds for you listeners, is the question about, hormones and cancer. I mean, this is a question that patients ask me, is that, but I'm worried to take hormones because of the breast cancer risk and all of that. And there haven't been any studies to show that bioidentical hormones increase the risk. And in fact, there's been studies to show they actually decrease the risk. Because if you think about it, if hormones cause cancer, then women who are in childbearing years would get cancer all the time because they have higher hormones, right? So that's just not the case. And then there's also the fear about like cardiovascular stuff with the blood clotting or strokes or whatever. And same thing, same argument. Then you would see that all the time in women who are younger. The adverse effects are seen in the synthetic form, and especially taking it like as an oral version of that. So that's very important to know.
Yeah, good point.
All right, that's all you.
So many of you probably don't even know what compounding pharmacy is. I wish I could see a show of hands. I always like to look. But we are a pharmacy. We're a hybrid pharmacy. We have your regular commercial meds, but we also have 3 different state-of-the-art labs where we do sterile compounding, hazardous compounding, and non-hazardous compounding. We're highly regulated by the boards of pharmacy that we're licensed in many states, including California board, which is the toughest in the nation, FDA, DEA, and we're accredited. I think we have a couple slides on that. Everything we do is by prescription only. So we make things that just aren't available commercially, and it's all about individualization, customizing. You're not a one size fits all society. So we're able to do sublingual drops, sublingual troches, injection, vaginal suppositories, solution, capsules, creams. There's many different reasons why one's better than the other. It might be absorption issue, or it might be something going on with you in particular. We need to go a different route. So it gives the doctor a lot of ways to really fine tune and customize. That's what's cool about the naturopaths, somebody like Dr. Noel, where they have the special knowledge on how to do this.
And it's really fun too, to be able to tailor it to the patients.
Yeah.
It's a blast because it's just figuring out, the kind of the individualized approach.
Right. And I think the doctors appreciate that we're accredited. Less than 1% of pharmacies have this level of accreditation. We're accredited in both non-sterile and sterile compounding. And what that means is we're just held to a much higher standard. This is not, a hamburger joint. This is, we're making your medicine. So personally, I want to sleep at night. And I know doctors want to know there's continuity in what they're prescribing. If I prescribe a progesterone 100 milligram capsule, that's actually what they got. So that if they're looking at labs and listening to the patient go, we need to make a dose change, they're dosing it based on knowing they got 100 milligrams in that capsule. It wasn't some off dose or at lost potency or whatever. So we do a lot of testing on our product other places don't do, training on the team that other labs don't do. We send many of our batches out for potency testing, endotoxin testing, sterility testing. So there's just a lot more that goes into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say to Chris, I'm like, I am so not jealous of what you have to do. I would not want to have a company pharmacy because you guys really, it's a lot to
a lot of compliance.
Perfectionist. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what will you learn in this presentation? I'm going to go over the 3 main sex hormones. I'll go over thyroid and also prescription only skincare, which we haven't touched on yet. And then in the topic of epigenetics. So I'll explain more of those as we dive in. So, but first off, let's do a fun little quiz.
Yeah.
We won't be grading this. It's okay.
Study.
You're all winners.
Yeah.
So let's see how well you know your hormones. So first one, you seem to be getting bigger around your midsection and you're gaining weight despite working out and eating right. So everything's the same as previously. So what is to blame? Is it A, high progesterone? Is it B, low estrogen? C, estrogen dominance? Or D, none of the above? I don't think I can even like.
We have a B that's coming in. Any other brave? Oh, here's a C. We have a B and a C.
Give you
What else do I hear?
seconds.
Okay, we got B's and C's. What do we think, Doc?
B's and C's.
Another
Okay.
B. Okay.
So the answer is estrogen dominance. Yeah. So good job to those who said C.
Yeah, this is like, I think estrogen dominance is kind of where a lot of the patients present. They come in with that kind of bigger belly going on, the muffin top, maybe their periods are getting irregular and clotty, and that's a pretty common place for women to say. They get to a point where like, I'm not sleeping, I'm gaining weight. It's a lot of times they present that way first, would you say?
Absolutely. And difficult periods where they may have more cramps or breast tenderness, a lot of mood issues with your periods. You just feel like they're different than they used to be. That's big. And a lot of times these ladies come in and they're taking really good care of themselves. They're eating well, they're exercising. Sometimes they're actually limiting their calories and over exercising because they're just trying to keep up with the changes, and it's just not working. So it's nice when they figure out that it's hormonal and it's not their fault, you know, because we can be so hard on ourselves.
Right.
You want to do that one?
Sure. So you're feeling happy one minute and, irritable and just annoyed and grumpy the next. These mood swings are caused by, and you're not allowed to say your partner on this one. Okay. A, low estrogen. B, low progesterone. C, high testosterone. Or D, none of the above. So we already have an A coming in. What do you think? Which hormones associated most with mood and even depression? Okay,
all of them. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay, we've got A's and B's and C's. Okay.
All right.
And the answer is, yeah, all of them. You're right.
Yep. The low progesterone. Yeah, progesterone is that feel-good hormone. It's responsible for feeling relaxed and chill, helps you with your sleep, and mainly because it works with the GABA receptors. And so GABA is that calm neurotransmitter that helps you feel relaxed. That's why a lot of times these ladies want to drink wine, right? Because it kind of works on the same pathway, but it can unfortunately make the situation worse to an extent. It can affect sleep negatively and,
Yeah.
And sometimes the liver is sluggish in these situations. And so that doesn't help things either.
Right.
No shame to ladies drinking wine, but it is a Band-Aid approach. So
yeah, progesterone's the happy hormone. I mean, it's called nature's Xanax.
Yeah, totally. All right. You fall asleep, but don't stay asleep, or you can't fall asleep at all. So you blame A, high estrogen, B, low progesterone, C, low estrogen, or D, both A and B.
So I got a D. Anybody else? Don't be shy, ladies. Okay, an A, a D. A's and D's right now, Doc.
A's and D's? Okay. Same thing. Low progesterone. I kind of gave it away with the sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, low progesterone especially, just because of that GABA activity that it does. And this really is one of the first things that I see improve when we do progesterone replacement. Pretty amazing, even within just a few days, sometimes that night. Yeah, pretty quick. All right, well, let's dive into more of these and we'll talk through some of the details. So estrogens, we tend to think of estrogens as sort of a hot flash thing. And that's one of many different functions that estrogen is involved with. It does a lot of things. It improves insulin sensitivity. So as women go through menopause, sometimes their blood sugar can get off balance and they can be more prone to, blood sugar dysregulation, even diabetes. Also regulates body temperature. So that's going back to the hot flash issue. Decreases LDLs, which is the bad cholesterol, increases HDLs by 10 to 15%. So pretty amazing. I mean, if you think about it, you at this stage of life, you might be going to your doctor and have imbalanced cholesterol, and they may not know the connection between estrogens and cholesterol balance, right? So they may encourage something like a statin, which just worsens the problem because it's not getting to the root of it. So important to know that physiology. It also improves your sleep as well, especially if you're dealing with hot flashes or night sweats. That's getting in the way of you sleeping well. It maintains the elasticity of arteries, so having a connection with your cardiovascular health. Increases blood flow, which is important for a lot of things, but especially sex drive, right? Having blood flow to your pelvic region, helping with blood flow to your skin. That's important for anti-aging. It decreases areas of plaques in the arteries. Isn't that interesting? So, getting your hormones regulated, optimized in menopause can help with cardiovascular benefits, actually. Decreases homocysteine. Homocysteine is something that is in the blood that is associated with stroke and heart disease risk. So it can help to prevent that. Increases sex drive. That's a big one. Estrogen is kind of the juicy hormone. It helps with lubrication. It helps with vaginal tissue being more plump and supple. Same thing with your skin. So that's a common symptom that women report when they go through menopause, is they'll feel like their skin is just more dry and kind of loses its elasticity. And maintaining collagen in the skin is the next one. And then helps maintain memory. So what Chris was talking about, you walk into a room, forget why, you look at your closet, like, what was I going to wear? Forgetting your kids' names, losing your keys. Because as I was mentioning earlier, estrogen, it being a hormone, it's involved in it affects every cell in your body, right? So it affects brain health big time. So Dr. Daniel Amen, he's a pretty well-known brain doctor, and he is a huge fan of bioidentical hormones. He does brain scans. He's done thousands and thousands, I think like over 200,000 brain scans at this point. And he puts patients on them all the time, and he finds it just really helps with their brain function. So estrogens regulate through vaginal lubrication. We'll use it in either, using it as a cream that you do like on your forearms, or you can rotate it different parts of your body, but you can also use it as a vaginal cream. And that's another one. I mentioned the progesterone can work really quick for sleep. This is another one that works really quickly for vaginal lubrication. So, and that could be very, it's not very motivating to have sex if you have vaginal dryness. A lot of these women will rely on lube, but it only goes so far, right? So the vaginal, replacement of estriol, especially, that can be very helpful for the dryness. And also it does more than just for dryness. The ureters, so the urethra is where you urinate out of, and that all of those tissues rely on healthy estrogen. So women who go through menopause oftentimes will deal with more UTIs or, bladder infections. So it can help actually to prevent that. Also treat hot flashes and night sweats, as I mentioned, help maintain bone density. So it's very important because estrogen is a bone builder. So if I have a patient come in and she has osteopenia or osteomalacia, so showing like early weakening of the bones or softening of the bones, we'll do bioidenticals oftentimes, and we'll see that their bone density gets stronger. And I have seen for women, as I mentioned in the beginning, in their 20s, who will have osteoporosis, and that oftentimes is someone who has been on birth control pills, and that suppresses the production of their hormones. So that's really unfortunate we see that, but hormones can really make a difference. These are the 3 estrogens, so E1, 2, and 3. So it's an easy way to remember it. Estrone, you see the 1 in there. E2 is estradiol, so di for 2, and then estriol, so the tri for 3. And we'll get more into the specific ones. And jump in if you need to, Chris, as I go along.
You're doing great.
Thanks. So estrone, also known as E1, this is the major source of estrogen in women who have gone through menopause. It is stored in the fat. So that's something interesting to note, is that some women do better going through menopause than others. Some have a really hard time, some do better. And we find that for a lot of the women who are very lean, who don't have a lot of fat, they may have a harder time going through it, as opposed to women who have more fat tissue, they do better because they have that source of estrogen. This is implicated in increasing the risk of breast cancer. So again, there's 3 estrogens. One increases it, one decreases the risk, and one is sort of neutral. And this is the one that increases the risk of breast cancer. And when I do testing, I'm testing for these hormones. You don't want to just guess, right? You want to test and see the specifics of which ones are higher in your body. And it's not commonly prescribed by healthy aging physicians. I've never prescribed estrone. It's just not something I think is important to do. Some doctors do, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, back in the day they did. They had a compound called Triest, and it was estrone, estradiol, estriol. And then, enough science came out showing we make enough of our own estrone. We don't need to add it in. So we drop that piece out. When you know more, you do better.
Yep, exactly. So now we use something called Biest, which is estradiol and estriol, and that works better. So E2, the estradiol. So this is the one that's neutral in terms of cancer risk. It carries the weight for most estrogen function, so it is the strongest of the estrogens. This is the one that does the most for controlling hot flashes and night sweats, and this aids in the cardiovascular health. This is important for the bone density, again, because it's the strongest of them, and also the brain function. And this is the one that we'll see drop a lot with menopause. And that's why these ladies will feel the effects of that decrease. And so we'll use this, like I said, to make the Biest with estriol. And then estriol, so this is the least potent, so it's the weakest of the three, but it is shown to be the most protective for breast cancer. It's been shown to decrease the risk of breast cancer. And this is not in the commercial estrogens that you would get maybe from, your conventional doctor like Climera, the Vivelle patch, which is estradiol. So you don't get those cancer preventing benefits. This is only available from a compounding pharmacy. So that's important to know. And this is the one that we'll use a lot of times as a vaginal cream.
And on the face.
And on the face, yes, that's right. I've been using my eye cream for that, so it's very nice.
Me too.
So progesterone, this is the balancer with the estrogen. I always say that I kind of like to see them on a teeter-totter, balanced out with each other. And so this is one that balances your moods, your stress, your irritability. Again, this is what oftentimes decreases in your 30s. It increases HDL, so the good cholesterol. It eases with hormonal headaches. Very common with ladies who have sort of an estrogen dominance, low progesterone type of situation to have more, migraines showing up. It helps with sleep when it's taken orally, especially. And it does impact bone density. So it works with, it balances estrogen and progesterone work together simultaneously to help build healthy bone tissue and break down unhealthy bone tissue. Is someone unmuted?
Yeah, we're getting a little feedback. Can everybody check to make sure you're muted?
Let's see. Okay, that's better. So testosterone, yes, women have testosterone. We tend to think of this as one for the guys, but it's actually very important for women's health. It's much, much less than what a man would have. But it's super important for many functions like your self-confidence, your energy, your motivation, just kind of having that oomph to, tackle the day. It increases your ability to build muscle. So if you're doing a lot of exercise and you're finding that you're not putting on good muscle, and, more just kind of the sort of the flabbiness, that could be an issue with low testosterone. And then it helps to increase, obviously, what we tend to think of testosterone, like your sex drive and your ability to climax too. So for the ladies that have a hard time actually reaching orgasm, it may be a testosterone issue. And in those situations, we'll use it, oftentimes as a cream. Sometimes we'll do a testosterone shot for that. And then we can also use that vaginally for some ladies too. And that can be really, really helpful for all of those symptoms. So I don't think we have men on the line, but if we do, we'll give you guys some love. We're going to talk about andropause.
So you might have a grumpy old man at home.
Yeah, the grumpy old man syndrome. Yeah, exactly. So understanding your guy. Andropause is what we refer to for men that start to, lose their testosterone. Around age 35, it does start to go down. It's more gradual over, as their life continues beyond that. But if you're seeing symptoms like increased belly fat, if they're tired all the time, mood issues, depression, irritability, like that grumpy old man syndrome, they don't like to hear that, but if you notice it, loss of libido and problems with erection, those would be maybe some clues of, having lower testosterone. And there's lots of things that can be associated with that. Like we know higher carbohydrates, too much sugar can do it, too much alcohol can do it, stress, poor sleep. But, oftentimes for these guys, using testosterone is so helpful. And there's also cardiovascular benefits. There's brain benefits for these guys. So testosterone is really an anti-aging hormone.
And we hear a lot of guys, the females will go in and get balanced and start feeling better. And they're like, I want what she's on, because I'm falling
Yep.
with the remote control in my hand every night at 8:30. So it
Exactly.
kind of works that way.
Yep. And it's very safe. I mean, I have my dad on testosterone. So my mom always says, get him off of this stuff. But
We treat a lot of guys. Yeah.
we do.
They're a little easier to treat.
They are.
Yeah.
We're complicated.
Yeah. Women are complicated.
So I just want to go over this real quick, the hormone metabolic pathway. It's important that you work with a doctor that understands this, because your hormones all work together. It's kind of like a big web. If you tug on one side, the whole thing moves, and you have to know how they all play together. So if you look at the very beginning of it, it's cholesterol. So that surprises a lot of my patients when I tell them that your hormones are made from cholesterol. So the majority of your cholesterol is made by your liver. Actually, about 20% is from diet. But if you have poor liver function, if you aren't eating good fats in your diet, good, even saturated fats like maybe butter or coconut oil, maybe eating the yolks from the eggs, like maybe you're doing all egg whites, it really impairs your hormones negatively. So diet is very foundational for your hormone balance. And if your liver is sluggish, perhaps you have gene mutations. We all have a different set of genes that we're born with. So you can have some tendencies to have, issues there, but also, making sure that your detox pathways are opened up. We're going to give away a free detox kit to one of you guys. So I think it's good to do a detox at least once a year, but even, a couple times a year, even every season or so, doing a couple weeks of a detox isn't a bad idea. Even if you eat well, we're having exposure to things in our environment that we don't even realize, in our air and the food that we eat, the water we drink. And so, or even some of our lifestyle habits, especially during quarantine and all this COVID stuff, a lot more of my patients are saying they're off their game, they're drinking more, they're not sleeping as well, they're eating crappy, they're just off of their normal routine. So that can impair hormones for sure. And then the other thing I want to point out is, if you notice in the middle part towards the bottom, the cortisol, the more stressed we are, the more our body wants to make cortisol, because it thinks that we're running from a tiger, right? It's the same kind of thing as our caveman ancestors. It's the same process that happens, is we're running not necessarily from a tiger. It could be from deadlines. It could be from sleep deprivation. It could be from financial stress, all the things. And so our body will convert more of our hormones into cortisol, and that will be at the detriment of our sex hormones. So, it's like if you're running from a tiger, you're not really interested in having sex because you just want to survive. And so that's important to be looking at. So a big part of what we do is looking at adrenal balance. We test adrenal health and make sure to balance that out, because it all plays together.
I think the importance too is, often patients will say, well, you tell my doctor doesn't really know hormones, but if I get the lab work, will you help them? I said, the doctor needs to follow you up, and they're not doing you any service if they don't know testosterone converts to estradiol, for example, and they're not monitoring that, especially, and men and women both. So this is a very small chart compared to what it really is, right? A naturopath would have on their wall, the size of a wall, and all the different metabolic breakdowns. But this is just significant enough to show when you tinker with one, it affects another. To your cholesterol point, I had a guy, we could not get his testosterone up. It was just, we kept cranking up the dose. But then one day he brings his labs in, and I'm scanning through it, and I see his cholesterol was low. And I said, well, God, you have like no cholesterol. And he said, oh yeah, I was really proud. I'm on a statin. I said, okay, I don't know if you need to be on it anymore. So I called the doctor and explained what's going on. The doctor's like, no, that's great. I wasn't aware. Let's pull him off. All of a sudden, his testosterone starts going back because he's making some cholesterol now.
Wow.
You do need some. You need a healthy amount.
Yes. I would much rather, in my opinion, to have slightly high cholesterol than low cholesterol.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Let's see. All right. So let's shift gears. We'll talk about thyroid. This is really what brought me to more natural medicine in my own medical history. So I'm very passionate about this topic. And the thyroid does so much. I mean, if your thyroid is dysfunctional, you feel it in so many different ways. And it's really, really, really common, and it's missed a lot. It's missed for a few reasons. One, because a lot of times, most doctors aren't really trained in hormones, like Chris was saying, but also the lab testing it's subpar. For one, you have to do a full panel. You have to look at a lot of different labs, like the TSH, the free T3, free T4, the total T3 and 4. You got to look at the antibodies. If you have a thyroid issue, 80+% of the time, it's an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's. And that's treated completely different than someone who doesn't have Hashimoto's. And that's missed all the time. And in conventional medicine, they don't even treat Hashimoto's differently. They basically just put you on medication, or they just kind of wait until it's so damaged that they have to, take your thyroid out or whatever. It just, or Graves' disease, that's the overactive thyroid. It's just really mismanaged. And so having it looked at thoroughly is very important. And then to have the proper ranges looked at. So for example, like looking at a TSH, that's the most common thyroid hormone that's tested. It's actually from the brain to the thyroid, so it's not technically a thyroid hormone, but I don't think even in conventional medicine, they treat it until it's over like a 4.5 or a 5,
yeah.
which is really, really bad. I mean, I look back to when I had my thyroid issue in high school, and mine was, I think, around that, like maybe in the 4s. And I was
on a lab, it'll show as normal. So that's part of the problem. Like,
and it's not normal, it's just common, right? There's a difference between normal and common, right? So most people are commonly low. And so, I like to see it between a 1 and a 2. So that I'm looking at from an optimal lens, and it's just night and day once the thyroid gets addressed. It's like the lights finally turn on. So, and it does a lot of things. The main thing, it aids in your metabolism. So it's one of those things, if you have a low thyroid, you could eat like a bird and you're still gaining weight. It's more common in women, and it increases your bad cholesterol. A lot of times if I see cholesterol that's out of range and I see the thyroid that's sluggish, I don't even touch the cholesterol. I work on the thyroid, and it almost always, it regulates on its own. And also hair loss. So if you're losing hair, if it's you're always pulling it off your shirt, if it's in the drain, people are always, hey, let me get the hair off your shirt. I mean, I've been there. That's a really common symptom with low thyroid. And plus you can feel cold all the time. You can get Charlie horses, like on your legs. It's common to get like the muscle cramps and brain fog. You can have hormone imbalances. And also there's connection with all these, like thyroid and progesterone. They have a connection too. It's common if you have low thyroid, you have low progesterone. And so they all play together. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about thyroid I should mention. And you don't always need medication.
It's underdiagnosed all the time.
It's underdiagnosed. Yeah. And it affects the adrenals, play into it. So if you have adrenal fatigue, you can have low thyroid. So yeah, I could go on. I could do a whole thing on just thyroid.
It's probably the most complicated hormone.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, let's jump into the skincare. This is just the fun stuff. I love using hormone support for skin health. Your hormones, again, you have receptors in your skin that are affected by your hormones. And when your hormones are out of balance, you will notice more aging, and you'll notice other skin changes. So we can do individualized skincare for your skin type, for your lifestyle, and using really high quality ingredients like the estriol we talked about. And there's also just other fun stuff that Chris can talk about, but it treats a lot of different things, like especially wrinkles, aging skin, acne. Sometimes for acne patients, they actually have high testosterone. So we can work on the testosterone activity on the actual skin. So that can be really helpful for like cystic acne, or like patients with PCOS, for example, who have too high testosterone, or like excessive facial hair growth. That would be another clue. Sun damage, when we get damage from the sun, it affects the actual cellular health. We end up needing more antioxidants. So that's something we can really use to help. Rosacea. So rosacea a lot of times is due to an internal issue like gut problems or too much alcohol. But for actual changes on the skin, we can help with that quite a bit. And then the hyperpigmentation. So I know, I have a 1-year-old. When I got pregnant, I had a lot more melasma. So I had like the dark patches, and that's totally related to hormones. But while you're fixing the hormones, you can do some support on the skin to help treat those changes.
Right. I mean, I think once you start feeling better, you want to look as good as you feel. So I call it nutrition for the skin. And again, my naturopaths have had me raise the bar as far as how clean it is, but I also want it to be clinically effective. So we do use some pretty active ingredients and combinations you can't get over the counter, and strengths you can't get over the counter. Often we can bill it to your insurance, which is really cool. We have maintenance and we have treatments. So the treatments would be for the hyperpigmentations, the melasmas, things like that. Adult acne, hormonal acne, I call it, because it's just flux. If you're a teenage boy, it's your hormones are in flux. If you're a perimenopausal woman, your hormones are definitely in flux. And a lot of times, yes, while you're addressing the internal, we can work on the external a little bit too. And then there's just some everyday treatments that are really good. You mentioned estriol. It's one of my favorite little hormones. It is the least potent of the estrogens, but it's really powerful. It works on vaginal tissue. She said for vaginal dryness. It works on your skin the same way. It builds strong skin integrity, builds collagen, builds elastin, decreases wrinkle depth. So we're able to actually say that because science has had provided us with studies that say it decreases wrinkle depth, not the appearance of wrinkles. So it's just some really cool stuff. I know you prescribe it and use it, and I use it too, and I love it. And it's the really fun stuff to get to do because I selfishly designed these a long time ago for myself, kind of, and now, we give them to the world. So they're fun. They're fun to do.
And I've compared it with going to an esthetician and using what they would recommend. And I would notice some benefit, but then when I would use the estriol cream, it was very different. Like I definitely wanted to go back to it because it was much more effective for me.
Yeah. Hey, Doc, we have a question for you.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
How often should you have your hormone and thyroid levels checked?
That's a really good question. I actually don't think you have to wait until you have symptoms to get checked. I think it's even good for a woman in her 20s, as a baseline to see what your levels look like. But if you are having issues, definitely get it checked out. Patients who come in to see me will do the initial testing. And then if there's issues we need to work on, we'll put them on some hormones. And typically we'll check in about 3 months to see what they look like. Assuming we get the levels really balanced out with that visit, then we'll recheck again, maybe 6 months out. But I don't like to go longer than every year to retest because life is always changing and our physiology changes. So I think ideally you check at least once a year.
Great. We're going to keep moving through a few more slides.
I think we're almost done.
Yeah, we're almost done. Okay. Tell them how it works to make an appointment with your office.
So you just call us. It's 858-480-5024, or you could get our information on our website, shinenaturalmedicine.com. So you just give us a call. We get you scheduled. You could do in-person visit or over the phone or, virtual. And and we do the full intake. I spend an hour with you of going through your whole health history. I have a big packet for you to fill out for me to really dive into all the details. I think it all matters. And then from there, we run labs to assess for, your thyroid, your blood sugar, all of that. We always check hormones. And then I am a big fan of deficiency testing too, checking your vitamin and mineral levels. And then depending on what else you got going on, if you have digestive issues or, you want to look into food allergies or genetic testing, we can do extra on top of that. And then
Dr. Noel, I have some questions and comments here too.
Sure. Yeah. And then once we go over your results and I put together a custom plan for you because you're an individual. So that treatment plan is usually about 10 weeks. And then we do retesting at the end to see how things have improved. And then we go from there.
I can grab these questions, Helma, if you want.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. One question is how much of this can be billed to insurance?
Yeah. So
such as initial tests and blood work.
Right. Some of our labs can be discounted with insurance. Our visits, because I spend so much time, insurance doesn't reimburse for that. So that's out of pocket. And, and if you guys call the office, they can give you like all the details for the actual prices. But the bulk of the cost is more in the beginning because we're doing the most assessment at the beginning. And then it gets a lot more affordable as you continue, as you kind of space things out. So it's different than, kind of going to your Kaiser doctor, paying a copay and all of that. So but it's a lot more thorough and a lot more time. Yeah.
And are there occasions where they can get their blood work done through their insurance and then bring that to you if they're running what you want?
If they're running what I want, and I almost never see that because, let's say I give you like a requisition form of what I recommend and you take it to your doctor. It totally depends on how open-minded that doctor is. Sometimes they're like, yeah, I'll run all of it. And that does happen. But a lot of times they're like, oh, I'll run this. No, I don't want to do that. Yes, I'll do that. And so that can get to be kind of a pain, you know,
Right.
so, but yeah,
Okay.
we try to make it affordable, especially with the labs.
Yeah, and here are some additional questions. What supplements can we take for low libido?
That's a great question. I mean, for me, I love getting to the root of the problem. And then that's different for every woman. Just in terms of lifestyle, the best thing is getting good sleep and reducing your stress. So that's huge. And then for actual supplements, I like using a specific type of maca. We have a couple here that I use. Maca can be helpful for boosting estrogen and testosterone. And then a lot of times they need adrenal support. And then, you know, doing things like B vitamins. Just a lot of times low libido is from low energy. So I tend to start there and making sure they're not overly stressed. And then honestly, I would run hormones and see if you need like maybe estrogen or testosterone or DHEA. We didn't talk about that. And those really make a big difference.
And what are pellets?
Yeah, I don't really use pellets. These are things that you can have inserted. They're I believe they're bioidentical, and you can have them inserted into your skin. But it's a large dose of hormones that decrease over time. And when I've done testing on them for my patients that have pellets, the levels are way off the chart. So I'm not a fan of
Crazy. I
pellets.
just also, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's invasive, and it's not customizable. We
Right.
can make them, but we choose not to because it's the complete opposite of what we're trying to do with individualized medicine. Because once they're in, they're in. You can't adjust.
And honestly, a lot of the doctors that use it, they do it and they make a killing on it financially. And I just wonder sometimes if that's like part of the reason why.
It's definitely a revenue stream for the doctors. So
Right.
think about that too.
Yeah.
And women go through menopause without hormone supplementation. Why or why not?
Well, in the beginning, I was mentioning, depending on their fat levels, some ladies go through it easier. They don't have as many symptoms. But that said, they're not going to be having optimal levels of their hormones. And so at a cellular level, they will have some effects, like maybe brain effects, bone effects, dryness, skin issues, stuff like that. So sometimes patients will ask me, do you think everyone needs to be on hormones? And I don't think you have to be on hormones. I mean, some women just don't want to. They want to use herbal medicine, which is fine. But I also think of it like, what would be helpful to optimizing your health and actually slowing the aging process? It's not like all of a sudden your ovaries are going to kick back in and you're going to start making hormones again. So like for myself, once I go through menopause, I do plan on using bioidentical hormones and making sure I test and that they're safe. But I see it enough times. I mean, my mom is 70 and I have her on hormones because I think it just really helps. And now all her friends have no sex drive and she does. Sorry to put her business out there, but I mean, I think that's important, right? It's important for their marriage and all of that. So I just feel like it's a good way to, kind of support that youthful type of feeling.
And this one is a long statement and a question. My naturopath says that bioidentical is better than horse urine progestin for sure. But she said bioidentical progesterone is also synthetic because although it is soured from natural wild yam, it is synthesized in a lab, micronized. And your thoughts, what do you eat in a day, Dr. Lauren? For weight loss, you look great. Breakfast, dinner, snacks, ideas, please.
So Chris, why don't you talk about the
I'm going to address that, Helena, real quick here.
Sure.
All the hormones are synthesized in a lab that we use, the bioidentical. They're converted from a raw root to a powdered form we can work with. So in that case, yes, you can say they're synthesized. That's why I said the key is not synthetic versus non-synthetic. The key is bioidentical versus non-bioidentical. They are bioidentical. So even though they're synthesized, if I put the horse urine underneath a microscope, it looks nothing like your estrogen, human estrogen. If I put the synthesized bioidentical estrogen underneath the microscope, it looks exactly like your estrogen. So I hope that clears that up.
Perfect. And then what do I eat in a day? I'm a big fan of fat. I do a lot of fat.
Yeah.
Butter. I do avocado. I do
almond butter,
nuts or seeds. I love sunflower seed butter. I do olives. So I'm a huge fan of fat. And, back in the day when I had my own hormone issues, I actually had very low cholesterol. It was like 110. It was crazy. I like to see between like 150 and 200. And so, yeah, I just wasn't eating enough fat. And I tend to keep things fairly low carb. I don't do any gluten. I've been gluten-free for 10 years. And I do some dairy. I do okay with it, but I didn't back when I first had gluten problems. So I've been able to bring that back in as I healed my gut because I had leaky gut before. I don't do corn, actually. I did a test. So I'm gluten-free, corn-free, and I don't do sugar. That was my goal for this year, is to not do any sugar. And I've been like 95% sugar-free. So, and I don't do any like artificial sweeteners. So what else? Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I try to do veggies. I do good quality meats. I don't do like, meats with, hormones and stuff like that. I do good quality meats. I love fish. And that's kind of it. Yeah.
So there's another question. If we are placed on bioidentical hormones, is it a lifelong commitment?
That's a really good question. Some ladies do it for a period of time just to help with the transition to menopause, but a lot of them like to stay on it because they feel so good on it. So, and then sometimes we're able to bring the dose down, to a pretty low dose. So it just depends on the woman, but most of them want to stay on it because it just helps so much with how they feel, and also just the kind of the health boosting benefits of it, like for the bones and cardiovascular and the brain and all that kind of stuff. So.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I think we have some giveaways.
Yay.
Yes. Yay.
Thanks, Doc. You were wonderful.
Thank you.
We'll be on the line, everyone, because we're going to give some stuff away.
All right. So, Chris, I'm just going to spin the wheel and you.
The
give
wheel.
Yes.
Why don't we start with those 5 custom injections? $250 value.
Great. The winner is Michelle Simonet.
Woohoo.
Woohoo!
Congratulations, Michelle.
And so I'll just tell you a little bit about the shot. So we do vitamin injections here. That's not like a shot, like an alcohol shot. It's actually like a B12 type of shot. So we do different vitamins. We have B1 through 12. We have some different other nutrients like glutathione, which is an amazing antioxidant. And there's other things. So when you come here, you can just kind of let us know if there's any specific things going on, and we can customize a 5-pack of shots for you. And we can do them for you here, or we can show you how to do them, and you can actually do them at home. You just keep them in your fridge and we show you how. So it can be, that can sound scary for some people, but it's actually pretty easy, and we can give you a little tutorial. So yay.
All right, the detox kit, I believe, is next.
All right. And the winner is Crystal Mingo
Yay.
Williams.
Hey, Crystal.
Yay, Crystal. So our detox kit, we call it the Shine Reset. It is a 2-week all-inclusive, it's not like a travel package, all-inclusive. No, it's a 2-week detox kit that has detox shakes. So you make like a little smoothie with it. It has supplements, and there's also a diet program with it. And it works great. I'm a big fan. I've been doing this program for, gosh, at least 5 years with my patients, and we've seen some really good benefits. So yay.
All right.
Now we have some Levita swag. We're gonna do a little Levita baseball hat.
Cute.
Yeah.
And the winner is Lisa Wells.
All right, Lisa. Hat will be coming your way. Now we're going to the visor.
Those look good on you.
You're modeling Levita wear.
I'm gonna go golfing.
Yeah, I know.
Tennis.
And the winner is Mia Strong.
All right, excellent. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Check our website. We have more of these coming. Check out Dr. Noel over at Shine. Again, if you make an appointment with her by Friday, you get $75 off. Mention it.
Shinenaturalmedicine.com. Here you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Phone number.
Here
Yeah,
you go.
that phone number. Yeah, that's great. And you can always reach me here at Levita, Chris, CHRAS, @levitarx.com. I'm very responsive to emails, calls. Try to answer any more questions you may have beyond today. Anything else? All right, Doc, great job.
You guys can reach me on Instagram if you wanted to send me a question or anything. I'm on there. So it's Dr. Lowe, DOCTOR_LO. So
and check out her podcast. It's awesome. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.